Hey friends and neighbors. To celebrate Halloween, I've been talking about horror movies that have been an impact on my life. So, previous video I talked about Night of the Living Dead. So if you haven't seen that, then by all means catch that. I also have a video where I discussed about a couple years ago about the movie Zombie. So I have some good points on that. So again, if you haven't caught that, then definitely look on my list of videos that I've made. What I'm going to talk about today is Bela Lugosi, and specifically the role that was a blessing and curse, and that was Dracula. When Dracula was released in 1931, a lot of people back then, and you have to consider this was 1931, a lot of people that saw Dracula of Bela Lugosi, a lot of them fainted, a lot of got freaked out, and just got really insane, like, oh my god, this guy is creepy. Now again, consider this is 1931. The movie is sort of laughable today to a lot of people, and that's understandable. Just like horror movies that are released today, in about 50 years, a lot of people say, are you kidding? This actually scared people back then? It happens. But the thing about Universal's Dracula of Bela Lugosi is that once he created that role, once he was part of that role, it never let him go. And despite the fact that he only played Dracula one other time, and that was in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and he did play another couple of different types of vampires or people that were like vampires. But Bela Lugosi could not escape from this role, and work at a point ended up getting harder and harder for him, and that led, among other things, to a drug addiction, which again led him to the last film of his life, which was the infamous Plan 9 from Outer Space. If you have not seen that film, you gotta see it. It's just, seeing is believing, because it is one of the most incredibly bad films out there. And for them to just use a few minutes of footage of Bela Lugosi walking around certain places, then having Edward's chiropractor trying to stand in from him, which you could clearly see it's not him, but I digress from the point. Forgive me for that. In regard to Dracula of Bela Lugosi, there's a lot of plot holes in this film, okay, but you have to understand this was 1931, and Dracula is based more on a stage play and not so much as the book that was written by Bram Stoker. So if you're expecting to see Dracula Bela Lugosi and get the full work from Stoker, you're not going to get that. The closest you'll ever see is either Bram Stoker's Dracula of Gary Oldman or Count Dracula with Louis Jourdan, and that was from BBC. That's also worth checking out. But again, I digress. The plot holes are basically a lot of things happen off screen. There's a couple of things that happen in the movie that just sort of fall off and are never discussed again. I'm not going to reveal those to people who haven't seen that because I don't want to spoil that. But people that have seen that film and are watching this right now will know what I'm talking about. In addition to Bela Lugosi as Dracula, the other role that nearly stole Dracula's thunder was Dwight Frye playing Renfield. When you see Renfield today in different movies like Tom Waits and Bram Stoker's Dracula, or even Art Johnson in Love at First Bite, pays a little homage to Dwight Frye, because once he got that, in a way he was typecast in a way. His role in Dracula is almost as similar to his role as Fritz in Frankenstein. But again, I'm sorry for digressing. There's actually two versions of Dracula out there. There's the original one that was in 31. And that one basically had very little music in it, other than the opening credits, a scene with a music box, and a scene during the opera. There's no other music in it. There's no atmospheric music. And then there's a version of the same movie that was released a few years ago with music that was added by Philip Glass and the Kronos Quartet. Now, I'm not trying to disrespect Philip Glass and the Kronos Quartet, because I do respect their music. I do love their work. However, I felt that by them adding the music to it, it took away a lot from the film. It took away atmosphere, if you would believe that. If you have ever watched the original version of Dracula, sometimes the lack of music helps. It makes things a little bit more creepy, a little bit more atmospheric. You know, it's like, for example, the scene with Renfield and Dracula on the ship, where Renfield is basically telling Dracula what he wants, the promise of lives. You're focused so much on Bela Lugosi's eyes and no music and everything, and you hear the wind and waves outside. That gives it a little spook. However, with the music scored by the Kronos Quartet, it takes a lot out of it. The music added to it actually takes a little impact out of the original version. So if you've never seen Dracula and you want to see it for the first time, please start with the original version without the Philip Glass and Kronos Quartet, excuse me. And again, no disrespect to Philip Glass and the Kronos Quartet. I understand why it was done, money-wise, and again, no disrespect. But it took a lot. That's basically like a colorized version of Dracula. You expect it to be black and white. When they colorize it, trying to make it look better and a good thing, it's not necessarily always a good thing when they decide to add things that a lot of people don't really want. So again, if you've never seen Dracula with Bela Lugosi, you need to go see the version without the Philip Quartet music. I give Philip Glass Kronos Quartet music. So again, I hope you found this informative, and hope you all have a wonderful Halloween, all the people out there in YouTube land. So again, hope you enjoy Halloween.